Good evening, Professor. This is Francisco Grijalva. I'm going to do a video analysis of 13. I'm going to answer the questions that are proposed on the syllabus. Question 1. Feeling, thoughts, ideas the film provokes. I am a Mexican American from Southern California. I have dealt with systematic racism my whole life. I lived in a border town. So, because I was in a border town with a lot of Mexican Americans, I was always isolated in when I would cross the border. I was always asked if I brought anything back. Was I doing anything incorrect? Always seen as I might be possibly committing a crime. There was a lot of CAA, FBI, DEA, where I was continuously always very aware that there was a lot of police and law enforcement around my life. So when I saw 13, it just culminated a lot of past history that I've had to deal with. It wasn't too terrible. I have a lot of friends that have been stuck in the criminalization system, but it gave me a sense of longing pain. 2. How has racism played a role in policies, politics, and advocacy? So the main concept that I got from this 13 was that in the colonialist period, slavery was utilized for free labor. Then when it became illegal, they changed the legislative laws, the policies, such as the 13th Amendment, and put in legislative wording to criminalize the black male to regain that free labor through criminalization. And this happened historically all throughout the next 150 years. There's a couple of aspects that they discussed in 13 and some that they left out. Like when President Nixon tough on crime, creating the ideology and concepts that would later on become policies, like the Comprehensive Crime Control Act of 1984, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, Violent Crime Act Control, and Law Enforcement of 1994. Those were very strong and very important policies that were put in place. One of them was mentioned in the 1994 Act. One was by Reagan, Bush, and Bill. What changes are needed? Well, now the good thing is that we are starting to look at substance abuse as a mental health issue, not a criminal issue. So there are some policies in place that are starting to rectify some of these actions. Now, that is not saying that there's still a huge systematic issue with criminalizing mainly men of color. And what needs to get done is, I think, in this era is education and reform. What can social workers do to create work within an anti-racist framework? Well, first we need to get into an anti-racist framework, and not in a micro sense, in a macro sense. Right now we're living in a very biased system that criminalizes men of color. So first we need to change the system in order to work in an anti-racist framework. So I can't really answer that because I've never seen one where we completely have no bias. And that's very difficult to do, myself included. I have bias all day, every day. So in reality, what can we do? Check our own biases, understand the systems that we're in play, and understand our environment. I live in Hawaii. The racism or stereotypes here are predominantly stronger on not necessarily people of color, but other people of other nationalities, such as Micronesians and people that look ethnically white, and they're considered haole here, a foreigner. And there's a lot of bias towards them. That's completely different where I'm from in California. 5. The system was created to segregate and discriminate. So I do not think this is a broken system. I think it's the system that's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to isolate, segregate, and create divisions within ourselves, so that way there is a class system. And the class system is not based off of a sense of color, but more off of a sense of socioeconomical scale that maybe back in the 1800s was very much based on color, but I think now it's more based on privilege. And there might be a tie to dominant male role, the white dominant male role of the 1800s carrying through the system historically through generations. Now, lastly, I would like to say that the concept of 13 is one of education. It teaches that the criminalization of men is an industrial process for private ownership. Basically, meaning that we get money from putting people in boxes and keeping them there, either getting through making money back through their labor or making money through taxation. We actually pay a lot of money to keep people incarcerated. We're the number one country per capita of people incarcerated. So when I look at this class and social work as a whole, I think policies are the biggest things that we need to change. As far as looking at how we're going to change those policies, I think one, voting, and two, social awareness. Thank you. My name is Francisco Grijalva.